Yeah, there we
Well, that's as
go.
much as you get. We're here.
Well, it's the end of the year,
It is. It's another year.
and we've revised our economic forecasting because my friend here, Nick, has been talking in a very gloomy way. He's saying he's talking about a depression now, guys. So, what do you reckon, Nick?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, Brian, because the depression, because let's actually call it what it is it's really beginning to strike home, and it's not striking in the most obvious places because we seem to have this sort of structured society where those who have more and those who have less have a hell of a lot less. The people I'm concerned about, and I've seen it, are the under 25-year-olds around New Zealand. Huge unemployment, huge lack of direction, huge lack of places for you guys to be. You've got that stupid bloody crone who's running education, slashing the funding so you can't get tertiary education as easily as you could, and things are also gone a little bit more downhill in terms of even if you've got it, you're not going to get a job. It's pretty bloody tight out there. I run a business. I know how tight it is. It's pretty bloody hard.
Yeah, I'll be inclined to agree with you, but then I've always been a bit on the gloomy side, haven't I?
Realistic.
Yeah, but we're just talking about New Zealand, of course. Other countries are experiencing their own economic difficulties and social issues. So what, for us is the big social issue, I guess, is inextricably connected to the economic problems. And we seem like other countries and cultures unable to learn from history because we've gone through these cycles before where we restructure our economy. And the problem is that the economic restructuring only just creates more social pain, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But I think where history is going to be taken a little bit, how should we say, out of context in the current status, but we've just lived through a historic era since the first industrialisation, and everything has grown. It doesn't matter where you've been, it's been this history of successive growth. If we're looking for what you do in a recessionary environment, we'd be a hell of a lot better off actually examining what happened prior to that industrialisation. And that seems to be like taking a long-term viewpoint, but I think it's very relevant because the current state of play in the world is that energy is in decline. Energy is the economy, and as that energy declines, so will the economies. Sick of telling people this, but it's a pretty simple formula. So what you're looking at is a major dislocation in terms of how the whole world operates. We're going to have to get used to declining economies.
Based on the issue of, as you say, the energy peak oil, I suppose, really took place in 2005. I think there's pretty much agreement amongst the people who understand the whole peak energy, peak oil, peak resource issue. That 2005 was it for oil, and as you say, with the decline, all economies are going to go down that slope. It's just a question, I guess, of what the downward side really looks like. And for us, it's looking like it's gone, into an L shape, hasn't it?
It seems to have, but I think it's a very deceptive thing. I mean, we might think about it in the prevalent economic terms of whether we can get inflation or deflation. Could get either, probably deflation, who cares? But the reality is that the people who run our economic structures, the people who run our political structures, the whole institutions which we rely upon, have built their whole paradigm based upon this constant growth concept. And they haven't seemed to have realised, and they're not going to realise until they're far too far out, that the solutions which they had for our issues up until now for the last 100 years they're just not applicable.
No.
Or they're not applicable in the same way. We've got a lot of people calling for, say, Keynesian solutions, and they're probably the right thing to do. And if you're thinking in an orthodox sense, market solutions, well, the market will dictate the level. No two ways about that, and it will be a downward level.
Yeah. So the sad thing about it is that people still haven't understood that sustainability actually means all of this.
Yeah.
that in terms of the growth patterns of the past, they're gone. The ability to have economic growth and to expand and so forth. That paradigm is still dominant in the minds of a lot of people, including, I say, most of the financial institutions.
Yeah, I think
are still thinking along those lines. And so I don't like to say it, but hey, guys, there's going to be some messy situations, and don't get caught trying to make some, make a few more points of interest on your investments, because they're going to be the first things that, they're falling over now, and they're going to continue to fall.
Yeah.
And I guess really, to be quite frank about it, I think this doesn't look good for the banks either.
Well, it doesn't, but I think what it comes down to is that what we've allowed ourselves to do over the last 100 years is to raise individuals to a very dominant level. You look at the wealthy of the world, how much wealth they've got. In the scenario we're in today, no amount of wealth is going to help you.
No.
Really, it's a case that we need to look to each other. We can't look to ourselves on an individual basis. You know, we can grow as much vegetables in the back garden, be as self-sufficient as you like, but if
and
you're not
you have,
looking
Nick.
to other people, well, I have, yeah.
You've got this. What we're going to do in the it's too late now because Nick and I are going off on holiday for a few days, weeks,
which is good.
Yes, it is. But we're going to go and look at Nick's garden, and we'll post it on YouTube, because he actually has really created this incredible, it's almost a miracle actually. When you go around, I saw it from the beginning. You're only going to see it as it's finished. But, Nick had this big backyard, which was, untamed.
And
yes, and he's now tamed it to the useful and the good, and he's got everything growing in his garden, and so he's got green fingers as well.
Yeah, but it's not the cure. That's the wonderful thing I'll say.
No.
It's a nice hobby.
Yeah.
It's a nice thing to do, but we need to look to ourselves as communities. We need to actually forget about the institutions which have failed us.
Yeah.
And we need to actually have our own community answer to what we're going to do.
Well, they are the dominant institutions still, the power institutions with power pyramids, have to, I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but they're not, they're no longer applicable. And yet, they're still there with hands around our throats. I mean, we don't...
I think there's something we're going to be really good at, and you'll get much better as people doing this over time, is that we vote with our feet. Those things which don't work for us, we don't use. Places where we don't get joy, we don't go. And those institutions are going to find their legitimacy severely challenged because people will walk. And that's the way the future will be.
Well,
so it's going to be fun. We're going to enjoy it.
Yep, we're going to wrap this one up. And we wish you the very best for 2011 in difficult times. Now we're going to turn this off.